ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor for me to introduce one of the professional boxers, Citlally Ortiz. Hey, thank you for taking this video call and giving me the privilege to interview right now. How you feeling?
Good, thank you. Thank you for the interest in wanting to interview me. I feel great. Well,
Hey,
let's get into it.
hey, listen, I was gonna do that before your fight happened against Franchon Cruz, one of the great fighters, great champions. And unfortunately, I know you were in a rush, focusing on the fight, and but nothing. As a man of my word, I said, you know what, I'm gonna get you after that, and hopefully, I get the interview also with Franchon Cruz, because I would love to discuss, her, her performance and everything like that. But first of all, um, Citlali, I hear a little bit, during they were saying on the end, like talking about in your fight and things like that. How you became a boxer? I mean, because eventually you went to the Olympics. What was it, before all of that to enter, in the sport of boxing and then going there in the Olympics? Tell us a little bit of that story.
Well, I've been speaking to my older sister. My dad and her had always been boxing fanatics. My dad since he was a kid. My sister when she was a teenager, but she's the one that kind of begged my dad to take her to the boxing gym. Why, I'm still not sure. But I was forced to tag along because I was a young chubby girl that my dad in that time he was a teacher, so he had to avoid me getting bullied, which is why I was forced to go train to lose weight. Eventually, as like a couple years maybe passed by, I ended up becoming my sister's sparring partner, which is where I learned the sport. I hated it at the beginning. To this day, I still ask my sister for a rematch because she left undefeated from me.
Wow.
So she used to beat me up, and I feel like after those beatings, I didn't want to feel that way again. So it was a certain motivation to like learn the sport. And my dad also saw potential. He wasn't a coach, and in that time, nobody wanted to kind of train me because of my weight. So him and I kind of started learning together, and that's how this whole career took off. Basically, we were, the first few fights I had wasn't until I was 14, 15 years old, and I started training when I was 8. So it was a long time that I took to even consider competing. Once I did, I started facing fighters that were already nationally ranked. Some were they had gone to world championships. My first nationals, I was representing USA before I even represented Mexico, and I was beating world champions, and I think that's where I started enjoying the sport. You get to travel, and then you get to beat people up that some people were surprised that I even had the level to beat these girls. So that's why I started enjoying it. And from there, we just little by little started looking for new goals. And nationals was first, then world championships, then Mexico, then more nationals, more international tournaments, until the goal was the Olympics, which I tried for Tokyo, but everything kind of got messed up in that time, and thankfully I was able to keep that goal with me, and I ended up making it to Paris for the 2024 Olympics.
Awesome, hey, it's an amazing story that you're telling me, and kind of feel, ashamed to say that coaches that probably didn't see a potential that you have, that you carry and you possess. I don't know. I mean, as a man, sometimes people might, you know, judge someone for the way he looks, but eventually right now I'm so glad that you speaking of that, because probably could be someone out there, maybe in, with all respect to you, in your shoes, and probably don't feel kind of secure like that. But hey, with your experience, with you example. I think it takes more than guts. It's like a courage in order to step up and say, listen, no one wants to train me, excuse me. I got my dad, someone close to my family, and let me prove you that probably you are wrong. So, and there you go. Whoever didn't want to train you, here you are, bringing the best of you. And let me tell you, the sky is the limit, and you prove that against one of the champions, Franchon Cruz. Let's go ahead over there. I mean, how was it for you to face, Franchon Cruz? Because with all due respect to her, she came out short on this fight, and eventually, I don't know if that was in the press conference that she says uh, that your skills as an amateur boxer, it wouldn't make an impact to her. Like, maybe she tried to say in a different words, I guess. Well, I try to understand like this, like her titles speak for a reason, that she's a champion, and you amateur pedigree or whatever you bring it against her, it was not gonna do anything. But on that night, she came out short. Even the commentators from the zone, they were saying that. Oh, how was it for you to face someone like that, especially like four fights in your career, and given the big opportunity in order to conquer world title like that?
Well, I knew the risk I was taking since I got the fight offered. This fight had been in the work for since right after the Olympics, which was around August of last year. Unfortunately, the fight wasn't able to pull through because of some minor setbacks.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew this fight was eventually gonna be offered in a better, maybe undercard, better situation. Regardless, it wasn't. I wasn't overseeing it. I felt like my amateur pedigree is what helped me perform the way I did against her. I feel like I beat her in that experience level fighting international. There's many different styles once you travel out of the country, and I was surprised honestly when I ran into so many 165 pounders around the world and the level that they bring. So I feel like that helped me out a lot, which is why I was confident in taking the risk against her. I knew she was a fighter. She has a fighter mentality. It wasn't gonna be easy. I feel like I performed the best in each round. I got the cleaner shots, so it was a little disappointing, especially with the scorecards. Sometimes the public speaks, and that's what happened that night. I truly thought that I was gonna get the decision. I was tasting the words already. But unfortunately, boxing is business at the end of the day. I know she offered a rematch, which I don't think is gonna happen anytime soon. But I feel like taking a rematch would be admitting that I lost, and I truly don't feel that way. I respect her because she gave me the opportunity. She could have chosen any other fighter that she could find if she wanted something easy. So she knew that she was getting into a fight with a tough opponent, and I respect her for that. And at the end of the day, I mean, I can't really. I don't like being a talker. It's
Mm-hmm.
my box speaks for me, and that's what happened that night. I was around the whole casino after my fight, and you should have seen the amount of people that came up to me telling me you won that fight, asking me for pictures. So it gets you a little bit more emotional that you pulled the fight and you don't get the decision when it's not fair.
Yeah.
So um, all your work, all the time that I spent preparing, all the risk that I took, even taking the fight. I know her name has more weight, uh, but I just I like competition. I like tough. I don't look for easy fights either. So um, I had fun. I enjoyed it. Just hopefully, I get another opportunity like this, and I keep being able to show show what I'm about. I'm
Yes.
still not known enough, even though with all the amateur background that I have. So that's what I'm gonna push for. Get my name and do something like what she's doing, or like what all the female boxers with a big name are doing right now, making history for female boxing and keep elevating it. So that's my goal. We'll see when I retire, but right now I'm going all out.
Hey, listen, there's so many things to achieve, and you're young, capable, resilient, brilliant. What can I say? I mean, first of all, taking my hat off right in front of you because, hey, as she mentioned, or anybody could say, you were coming with the pedigree or the fights that you did in the amateurs, going on the Olympics and all of that. But you mentioned that all of that helped you in order to build up, something strong, something never seen, as a pro, and that gave you the confidence and ability in order to face a champion like her. My respect goes out there for Franchon Cruz, taking my hat off right in front of her as well. But on that night, unfortunately to me, she came out short. It's not only me. You could ask anybody else. There will be a debate right here that people might gonna say no, she won and things like that. But at the end of the day, the result was there. The better judges are the public. And listen, you are doing great. even even the commentators mentioned, I mean, the one that looked like she was an amateur, that was her. Because to be honest, I was watching the fight, and I know she was doing her thing. She was doing everything. But as I was mentioning, off the camera, I said, "Wow, this girl is not that I like to compare men's and women's." I said she just make moves like Andy Ruiz. Like if Andy Ruiz would have be fighting Anthony Joshua, but this is a version of women's. Citlalli has the skills in order to move one side to side and not getting hit. And I know Franchon Cruz is trying to use her jab and everything like that, but it's not working. So how you figure out, this in order that you could go out there and bring all the, heat against Franchon Cruz? How you figure out that?
I just felt like I said, no disrespect to her either. I just feel like my skill level was a little higher. I feel like it has a lot to do with the amateur background. She used to be a Team USA alumni as well, but Clarissa came by and took her off the team. Took her spot. So I feel like that time frame where she was able to be on the USA team didn't help her as much as me being on the USA team or on the Mexico team, because uh, the level started growing as the years passed by. So maybe even if she did have international experience, the level wasn't there in her time as an amateur. So I feel like that's the difference between her and I. Now females boxing is so elevated that you find good level all around the world. So I feel like that was my advantage. That was my mentality for the fight, to prepare. And honestly, it was to be faster than her, because uh, she's a slow fighter. She likes, her heavy hitting right hand is her strong. I'm maybe not I have power. I still haven't developed the knockout power yet, but as far as conditioning, as far as speed, as far as movement, I just felt like I had the upper hand. So um, it it was my mentality, and that's what I was getting ready for. I knew she has, like I said before, she has the fighter mentality. So regardless of the situation, she was gonna find a way to pull through. So I never expected her to knock me out, and I never expected me to knock her out. I knew it was gonna be a toe-to-toe fight, and that's what happened. I one of the things that I mentioned a lot is I like being a clean fighter. I hate people who push. I hate people who grab. I hate people that it's called habits, but I've never had bad habits. I've had to learn, unfortunately, because I get it done too. I have to know how to respond, which I'm still working on. Apparently, I was hugged a lot throughout the fight. She dropped herself on me. Um, the headbutt. There's a lot of factors that come into the situation, and well, you kind of have to push through it. But my thing is being a clean fighter, and when I get faced to a bad habit fighter, it shows. And I tried to keep it as clean as possible, but it was hard.
Yeah, well,
But regardless of the hugging and the leaning and the pushing and everything, I feel like I still um, had the upper hand. But unfortunately, the judges didn't see it that way. I know I gained a lot of fans in that fight. I gained a lot of exposure. So I'm always gonna be grateful for that opportunity that she gave me. But realistically, I feel like I did enough to win. But I think in that situation, it was either knock her out or lose.
yeah, like the way that they say, kill or be killed, right?
Exactly.
Hey, by the way, you mentioning the hugging and all of that. I mean, it comes sometimes that unfortunately, you get an opponent like that. Did you get any? Did you get hurt when both of you fell on the canvas because that was accidental?
I actually tripped. I was trying to get away from her hug, and when I stepped back, I tripped, and that's why I fell. And I say this a lot during other interviews or just conversations that I have. I hate falling in the ring. It's something that embarrasses me because if I'm gonna fall, it's because they knocked me out, not because they pushed me, not because they fell on me, not because. So those type. It's not the first time it's happened to me, and it sucks to say, but it's embarrassing. I find it very embarrassing to fall in the ring. And she actually got in trouble because she pushed off me to get up, and the judge was really upset about that. But it was mostly that I tripped over and I wasn't able to get my stance right, and then she was already coming because she was ready to hug. So that's why we ended up falling over.
Yeah, I mean, God forbid
But
you didn't come out from the out of the
yeah, it
ropes and
didn't
of the,
hurt.
because
It
that would
didn't
have been
hurt
like, oh
either way,
wow,
but
because I seen that sometimes like, wow, and sometimes the commentators they go like this, they say, oh, this is not wrestling and things like that because sometimes.
exactly. That's one of my main things too. I don't understand how they judge that. You know, I thought it was the cleaner shots, the quantity of how many shots you're throwing, the percentage of what you connect. So the scoring just threw me off. I feel like everyone saw it in my face where I was kind of already I know what's coming. Once they said 94-94, that was already a bad start, and not to say the last scorecard, which was 98-92, that one was
I know.
extreme. And
Yes.
that's another thing I noticed throughout the fight, because she was getting um, told to stop holding and pushing, and I don't know if you saw that there was a round that they brought her to the middle, and usually when a ref brings you to the middle is because they're gonna take a point away. But I think that he remembered, like, oh wait, this is not what I'm supposed to be doing right now. So
No.
he just caught her attention
Like.
again. But if he would have taken off that point, it would have been a majority draw, because the scorecard was already, yeah. So it sucks that sometimes you realize that fights are setups. Like I said, boxing is business, and sometimes it's out of your hands. But I know that I did my job. I let my boxing speak for me, and
And you
a lot of
did it.
people that fight was stolen. So,
But you did it.
but
You
at
did
the end
it.
of the day, he has the titles.
Hey, no, but I'm saying, I understand that, and like I said, I respect Franchon because we were saying, off the camera, she's one of the sweetest persons, and I know she's a champion for a reason, but she came out short on that, and but we will see if she goes, when if I see her, and I get to speak to her. Hopefully, she don't take it like personal. But like I said, she
No,
sees
she's
she
very sweet.
she sees
She
that,
actually
and mhm.
she came to my to the room where I was warming up after the fight. She told me, I really liked what she said. I didn't have any words for her, honestly, because I was still upset. Um, but she said something that should stick to a lot of fighters. Actually, don't she said don't let a win get to your head and a loss get to your heart.
There you
You know,
go.
I know she was trying to make me feel better. Which in that moment I didn't,
I
I
know.
didn't take it that way. But now that I look back at it, there was a point in my career where I went undefeated, and the first time I lost, uh, even I if I felt that I didn't, it still gets marked on your record.
I see it.
So sometimes losing when you know you didn't, it kind of plays a toll on you. But I think that's the only thing I like that she said after the fight. But
Wow.
like I said, she is very respectful. She is um, her sportsmanship is you could tell
A,
she's a
she,
good person.
a
So
quality of
I respect her
a
for that.
quality
Like I said,
of a fighter, I can say it. Hey, but how you feel that even Hannah Gabriels gave you a compliment and says you won the fight. You got my respect. Because we don't know. Maybe one day. Like you mentioned. This is sports, and greatness is in your career. You might gonna face probably her. I don't know, maybe Clarissa Shields, but one of the persons that congratulation I remember on seeing on social media, Hannah Gabriel's. How you feel, someone like her coming on, towards on you and say, listen, you won the fight. In my eyes, you won the fight. What a great performance from you. How do you feel, hearing, that type of comment from Hannah Gabriel's?
well, it was actually pretty surprising and exciting at the same time. She's one of the fighters that my dad always told me to follow. So I had been, I had been knowing about Hannah Gabriels for a while, and I knew, potentially in my future when I saw it back then, which was years ago. I knew it was gonna be a potential fight, maybe because of her weight class, and even when I saw her fight Clarissa, I saw that she dropped her. I was really really expecting her to beat Clarissa, but I know Clarissa, her skill level and her background as an amateur, it also helped her during that fight. But I was very when you get noticed by fighters like Hannah Gabriels, it's like a motivation in a way because I did do things right. I Sometimes you feel like, oh, maybe I should have done a little bit more. Maybe some people that are saying that I did lose are right. So all of that goes into your head, and her being a fighter that's already faced Clarissa, that's already faced fighters, it gave me, the assurance, the confidence that I was like, I did do my job. So I mean, we admire her, and it doesn't take away the opportunity or the maybe the opportunity to fight her. We want to face the best fighters, and I think she really did a good job against Clarissa. And if she does get a fight against Franchon, I think she will do a very good job. So my respect to her, and very honored that she shared what she thought about my fight. But it's just gonna get me more known too. So I appreciate that. At the end of the day, we are females. We gotta support each other, and most of all, the sport that we need to keep fighting for that female boxing, keep getting better and better, and more pay, and so it's just see where this goes from here.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, let me tell you, you're just talking about the force that each and everyone coming together in order to, help each other. Because hey, let me tell you, boxing, female boxing has been changing now a lot, and I give your prompts to every female athlete, including yourself, that boxing is making a revolution. It came to stay and it's going nowhere. Uh, New York City is bringing again where everything started. It seems that it's gonna end Serrano-Taylor, the third fight. What's your thoughts on women's boxing? First of all, I know Jake Paul, and I always mention, and I had to say, huge shout out for Jake Paul, MVP Promotions, the whole team together, all promoters that gathered together and make this huge card in MSG July 11. All women's will make history in boxing. What's your thoughts on this event?
I think it's a great event, great opportunity, great pay. It gives you a sense of motivation to want to get to that platform. Because it's been so hard for female boxing for years, and for it to be as elevated as it is now, where the pay is getting bigger, the platforms are getting bigger. Netflix is streaming female fights. So just that alone already speaks a lot. And I respect Jake Paul as a businessman, because at the end of the day, that's what he's doing. He's investing in something that he sees potential in, and women's boxing had been needing that for a while now. So speaking business, I think it's a very smart move he made. Not so much sport wise, I'm not a huge fan. I hope he doesn't see this.
No, but I'm guessing he will because listen, you just gave him a compliment because I've been doing my thing in order to support women's boxing, and you're not gonna believe it, or probably you will. But every female athlete says that this is the man that women's boxing needed because he bet for all of you, and look, it's investing in this huge car, and once again with the promoters, MVP Promotion, and all of them together making this possible for all of you. I mean, what a great card and history in women's boxing. And talking about that, I mean, once again, congratulations to Jake Paul and the whole team, the whole promoters and everything. But what's your thoughts on right now this great card, Toronto Sailor, the third fight? Who who will?
I personally believe that you know I honestly side with Amanda Serrano. I've also followed her for a while. She's in the lower weight classes. She started at a lower weight class. She went moving up and kind of did her thing in each weight class that she wanted to fight at. So I think she did it also to push that female boxing the movement. So it's admirable the way that she every goal she had, she's been achieving. I think it's gonna be very hard to get the decision over Taylor. I feel like her last fight she did really well. It's the fight was so exciting, but that's the type of caliber that these fighters have. They have a high level, and I personally believe that Katie Taylor's background as an Olympian also helps her. Amanda Serrano doesn't have that background, but she's a tough fighter. She's a smart fighter. So I feel like decision wise, it's probably gonna go to Katie Taylor, but I feel like Serrano is a stronger fighter. Maybe the skill is where she doesn't have the same skill. I feel like Katie Taylor still uses a lot of her amateur style in her fights. So that kind of helps her out, but sometimes you get hit with a good shot like the ones that Amanda Serrano throws, and you could be in danger. So I really hope that the third one's a charm for Amanda Serrano. I'm citing for her, but I feel like most likely if it goes to decision, it's going to be for Katie Taylor.
Wow, yeah, that's something that we gotta tune in on July 11th, see what outcome we will be. I give it like you just mentioned, like to me, I feel like 50 and 50. I don't know, it could go either way. And as you mentioned, if he Amanda Serrano catches with the power of that hand. I
I
don't
don't
know
know
if
if in the second fight she hurt her. I don't remember what round it was, but I saw and Katie Taylor was hurt. So, regardless, my respect to both fighters putting on a show like that. Sometimes we get better fights than males. That last fight between Canelo and
William.
Skull.
Oof, like
A lot
I
of
mean, Turkey, like she just mentioned, he doesn't want to see Tom and Jerry, chasing each other. But I think he made it something like the ring now it's gonna be fight to fight, something like that. So he made it, I guess, kind of short for. I don't know if that's one of the fights that is gonna happen over here. Shakur Stevenson versus Cepeda. So yeah, and I think we will see, how the measurements or what kind of ring they're gonna be presenting in this fight. But you just talk about something that eventually just passed by a press conference over here in New York City. Crawford, Canelo. I interviewed Crawford, and Crawford says that he got the tools and the skills in order to beat Canelo, and he's just gonna prove it and show the world that he can become victorious over Canelo. What's your thoughts on this great card? Now Canelo has to make the decision in order to fight Terence Crawford. What's your thoughts on it?
I think that it's funny that you asked that, because I've always said that um, I've never really been a boxing fanatic. Even when I was learning the sport, my dad would make me watch boxing fights, and I'd be sleeping not even at the first half of the first round. So I'm not a big follower of Terence Crawford or Canelo by any means. I mean, I've seen his fights. I haven't seen so much of Terence. I think it's going to be very difficult for him unless he knocks out. I feel like in this situation, Crawford is the B side. At least that's my point of view. Canelo has a big name, and especially the weekend that he's fighting. It's. I think if I'm not wrong, it's during Independence of Mexico weekend, so that's already a weight for and a plus for Canelo. And at the end of the day, he has put Mexico, in a very big platform. So uh, that already weighs, and I don't know. I do feel like Canelo does have good skills. I would have to see though. I'm honestly 50-50, but I think in this situation, Canelo's most likely gonna take the fight.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, I gotta see what outcome it will be. I mean, don't get me wrong. Canelo has been in his prime, King 168 division. He has faced all type of fighters. Like he's still saying, the fighters that whoever comes and face him, he has seen everything. So there's nothing special on every fighter that eventually Canelo says that. But in this particular case, I'm kind of curious what Crawford will bring, against Canelo, because Crawford jumping in two weight classes in order to face Canelo, that's a
That's already a disadvantage.
that's a disadvantage. But we will see if those skills and the power he will bring against Canelo. We gotta find out if he does.
I don't believe there's a strong enough fighter that will knock out Canelo, but I do believe there might be a better skill to beat him. Bivol, when he went up a weight class, he fought him as an amateur. Bivol was fighting like if he was an amateurs, and that's how he was able to beat Canelo, in my point of view. Um, if Skull maybe would have thrown a little bit more, he made Canelo look bad in the sense that when you're a complete fighter, you have to adapt to any style, and he wasn't able to do that against Bivol. And I mean, I feel like he beat Skull because Skull doesn't have a really, in my opinion,
Yeah.
he didn't really have a good name. Uh, so I don't know. We're gonna have to watch that fight, but because he's representing Mexico or my roots. I'm gonna obviously be going for Canelo, and then, like I said, that weekend of Mexican independence. I feel like Crawford has to come and kill or be killed, like we mentioned before.
Exactly, but I'm pretty sure they will bring good excitement because as Crawford just mentioned, I'm gonna do my best in order to bring my every skills that will make Canelo to think about it how he's gonna manage me. But we gotta find out September 13th. Stay tuned on that. Talking about stay tuned. Any upcoming fight in your career, or you just continue training in order that whatever appears right now,
You
you.
know, a lot of people don't agree with some decisions that I make, but I don't know if you knew, but right after my fight, June 6th in Verona, um, I traveled to Mexico City and traveled with the national team to go fight in Czech Republic. I had my eye swollen. I could barely open it. A weight class, I ended up going up in a weight class instead of down because I was right after this fight. You have to recover. You have to get the electrolytes, get some food in, and the traveling always makes you retain liquids and all this situation. But I ended up fighting, and this was in the amateurs. The goal to that I haven't canceled out is maybe making it to the next Olympics, but this time actually bringing a medal. I want to keep that option open just because, Olympics is like the biggest platform in boxing you can get to. I've already done it once. I wish I could have brought a result, but it wasn't able to this time. But now that they're going to be in LA, it's literally 2 hours away from where I am. So it would be crazy the amount of support if I do make it. And I think I want to aim for that. There's tournaments coming up that are going to be important for the process. So I ended up getting first place over there in Czech Republic. I came back to Mexico, and they want to take me to a world championship in September. From there, keep fighting. I really enjoy the amateurs more than I do the pros because of situations like the ones that I went through during my last fight. So we're going to keep options open. If an opportunity that's huge pops up again, we have to weigh the options, weigh the pros and the cons of each opportunity. So right now, my plan is to go to these world championships representing Mexico and hopefully, get a result there and look for the next Olympics. That's one of my goals right now. Short term, well, actually long term because it's in 4 years, or 3. But the pros right now, I feel like I did a really good job taking this fight. I took a risk. I showed what I'm made of. People called me crazy because I went with my eyes swollen, eye red inside, and I fought out there. But I was able to get the win, which is I made up for that loss that didn't feel like a loss, and I brought results. So my career has always been very controversial. So not a lot of people are gonna agree. Not a lot of people are gonna support what I'm doing, but I feel like if you're in the situation where you could represent a country, and then you could fight for a world title like that, and just keep exposing yourself to the sport, for people to get to know you. I feel like if I want to retire in the next 5 years, the best thing I could do is keep fighting, keep looking for the clout, how they say. So as of right now, that's my plan. Clarissa mentioned she thought that I fought really well. Obviously, in my career, fighting her would be, a huge stepping stone to making history like she has. So I obviously would love to fight her. I know she's a tough fighter, and her skill level, she has everything, but I don't feel like she's unbeatable. Obviously, I wouldn't want to fight her at a heavyweight class or at a middleweight class. I would probably look into fighting her in the lower weight classes. But she's a champion, so she's gonna have her plans. We'll see what comes after. But I know that is a potential fight that I would want to look for.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, wherever I guess you will do in your career, it's always gonna come greatness because I can tell you, you're young, capable, resilient, brilliant, strong fighter, fast, and all of that compose one fighter like you, like Citlally Ortiz. That's the one and only. And let me tell you, I want to congratulate your team, your dad, Marcos passed that he probably gonna watch this interview because I know Marcos is it was there in your corner as well. And nothing, like I always said, the sky is the limit, and I know greatness comes in your career because listen, you're just doing better and better, and I can tell you that we hasn't seen yet the best of you, and it will be developing year by year, but you making those decisions in your life, respectfully as well from my behalf. And I feel like I said, greatness will come in your career. Well,
Thank you.
since anything, I would say this, nothing but wishing you well in whatever you do in life, and this is not gonna be the last time that we're gonna reach out for you on an interview, Citlalli. So I have to say thank you for taking this video call and the interview as well. One message would you like to deliver to the fight fans and everyone that will tune in this interview?
I want to thank all the people that joined Team Bellatrix. I feel like I got a lot of new fans thanks to this last fight. I'm only gonna get better, like you said. You never stop learning in this sport, so um, I appreciate those who follow me, who believe in me and my skill and my potential. You being one of those, just by the way you express yourself about me, I already know that you respect me as a fighter, and I really appreciate that. And nothing, stay tuned for whatever crazy decision I make next.
Well, we will stay tuned, and thank you for also allowing me and being an honor to reach out for you. And like I always said, I try to support any women all around the world. Even if I see in person, I come by and say, hey, let me just do my thing because I'm pretty sure there are women's out there that would love to speak their story, anything that will go. And fight fans, those who are truly fight fans, they would love to hear, from a fighter like yourself, how all of you going through certain things in order to become a world champions or in order to be, as a gold medalist and things like that. But here you are, so I have to say thank you. Until the next one, ladies and gentlemen, with us, Citlally Ortiz. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.